Welcome to the next installment of the Dogs Podcast. We are delighted to be in Dallas, Texas. Well, just outside of Dallas, Texas, in Plano.
Plano. Yeah.
So no Spanish influence there.
No.
Okay.
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, no.
Got it. Yeah, and we're here with Anne Ortiz, which I will kind of let Cole or Anne introduce you.
I want to start by saying thank you to your support system, because getting Anne alone is such a blessing, because we know that you have children and dogs and responsibilities, and whenever you get a mom alone, it's special.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you for making the time.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you for having
we
me.
mentioned that when you flew to Oregon to share time with us for a few days, and yeah, it's just so special, such an honor to have that be just a gift.
Yeah.
Really is.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for acknowledging that.
yeah.
I love it.
So I don't know how long. One of the reasons why we wanted to talk to you today is because you left the industry recently.
Mm-hmm.
How long were you in the dog world for?
Technically, since 2014, when I adopted my dog Luna. But then at the same time, I was partly in the industry when I was a child back in Germany. I don't know if we've ever talked about this.
I don't think we have talked about this.
My mom was a hobby dog trainer.
Really? Wow. Okay.
So I got to spend my weekends on a big field out in the middle of Germany, where they were doing, your very typical obedience classes, agility, some behavioral stuff, but more alongside obedience training. And my mom was leading the group.
Wow.
So, growing up with dogs, we were doing that the whole time.
Wow, that's
But
very
then-
cool.
When you talk about dog industry, I'm always referring to the dog industry here in the US.
Yeah.
So that started in 2014 when I got Luna.
Okay. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And when did you come to the States?
The very first time I came over was in 2011, but then I moved here permanently in 2013.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How long, just out of curiosity, how long were you experiencing that as a child with your mom?
I want to say about 5-6 years or so. So when I was born, we already had a dog, an Irish setter. He was a mess.
They can be a big mess.
He was a big mess. I will also say there's a whole story about it. My parents didn't really know what they were doing when they first of all picked the breed based on looks. And also they got him from a breeder that was forging papers. So he was not 8 weeks, he was 6 weeks when they got him, so he was very young, and he had distemper. And from what I've learned over the years is, and I'm not a vet, so I don't know, but that if a dog has distemper as a puppy, that it can really mess up their brain.
Yeah, it can wreak havoc for sure.
Yeah. So we always joked about it, that he kind of had a screw loose.
Gotcha.
But we loved him, and then when I was 3, they got a second dog. That was pretty much my childhood dog. And I think with that dog, she started learning more about the obedience stuff. And then they asked her at some point to take over the class. So I want to say when I was like 5 or 6,
Okay.
I started going with her every week. And then that dog passed away when I was 14. But she didn't do it the entire time. So I want to say maybe from like 5 to 10. Yeah.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
Really?
It was my whole entire life. All the dogs that we met there, I wanted to take every single one home. That led to me sometimes pet sitting some dogs or walking some other people's dogs. Not that I knew what a dog walker was or anything like that. It was just a kid having joy.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, experiencing fun times.
That's so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you've been kind of working with dogs a bit longer than we thought we were aware of.
Yes.
Which is great.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
I think that will just lend more to this particular episode and things that we'll cover. I do want to call out my voice. I've been kind of shouting because we've spent shouting for 5 to 6 hours the last 2 days, because we've been here in Dallas working with the Love Pit organization, helping.
Also, thank you for the Love Pit for bringing us down here.
Yes, this is the fourth year we've been down here in Texas, and yeah, so we're brought down here to work with the Love Pit and help them make some refinements and adjustments to their evaluation process for pulling dogs
from shelters.
And so the last 2 days we've spent 5-6 hours in Dallas Animal Services, and that was the first. I've been to a shelter, quote unquote, that had like one dog in it, so it doesn't
or
count.
Like humane societies.
Yeah. I don't even know if I've been to a humane society.
Oh, I have.
But and so it was my first experience in there, and I knew I was going to probably have to shout, but it was quite a bit of talking loudly for a while, just going from cage to cage or run to run, evaluating dogs and pulling them out, and then just going through the whole framework and of how Cole and myself essentially evaluate dogs to join our pack.
And just in general, when we look at a dog or feel a dog, what is going on in what we see and what we feel that is giving us information about who they are, how challenging they might be, how much they might have going on, and their personality. So we're already naturally doing that every time we touch a leash or lead with a dog.
Yeah.
Or see them in workshops.
And we mentioned it quite a bit, and some of these volunteers that we were working with, because there were 11 of us total, and so nine other ladies that were in this program, and some of them work with TLP, but then they're also like the intake director at TLP or at Dallas Fort Worth shelter. And so it was a fantastic group and such a beautiful, lovely, peaceful experience. Definitely chaotic.
Yeah, you said that. You said this when we were grouping up and talking with people, and one of the gals said, "I'm sorry, peaceful?" Yeah. And then I was like, I think you're talking about inner peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. There is an inner peace.
Not environmental peace.
Yes.
Not necessarily environmental, but usually when things with me, I've noticed over the years, when they get more chaotic, I get more peaceful inside. For some reason, it happens that way. Maybe it's just the meditation or who knows what. But anyways, so my voice is a little off at the moment. But thank you, TLP and Afton, for bringing us down here. It was a remarkable weekend, and just being able to share all of what happens internally with Cole and myself so naturally, because there is a lot of overlap with other dog psychology analysis and evaluation and behavior and all of that stuff. There definitely is some overlap, but there is a lot of non-overlap. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of stuff that we look at that we would say no to, essentially, or that point to a dot that others might not connect.
Right.
And that just comes with the nature of how we handle dogs. Mm-hmm. It's much more intimate, and we don't deal with the senses, so it's just a different process. So it was really it was a delight and an honor to be able to come down here and just share all of that kind of for the first time in such a concentrated form.
It was very unfiltered is what we were talking about, is that when we're talking to someone or talking with someone about their personal companion, we don't really need to go into all the reasons why we wouldn't have picked them or all the things we're seeing. We'll mainly just maybe say, oh, that's a more advanced dog that you have. Here's some cues that are going to help you in life, and then let's get to work helping you navigate and move through life together. Whereas this is that beginning point of, is this going to be a relationship or not? And so we were able to be so unfiltered and just very comprehensive in all the things that we were seeing, because they're looking to pull more unicorn kind of beings and less trouble and problem and behavior and large feelings. But they're in there, and they're, you know, there's 500 dogs in there.
Yeah, they were at 200% capacity.
So they're it's more, we know they're there, let's help you pick those out and bring those in. And
because the reality, which we'll talk about in some shape or form during this conversation, is most of these people adopting dogs don't want to do anything with the dog. Correct. They don't
which
they
you
want,
probably see on the other side
they
of
want a unicorn, but they don't want to take the time to get to a unicorn. They don't have the skill, they don't have the time, they don't have the lifestyle. And that's fine. But like, we've seen it for countless years. We've been wanting to kind of dip our toes into this realm of rescue for so long, because we saw that element, and we're like, why are rescues pulling all these dogs that are not good fits for the vast majority of these people who are adopting them? And that's not to say that the dog doesn't have a good life and the human doesn't love the dog. They always get to that.
Right.
Yeah.
The love is like seeing them in pajamas on the couch.
Right.
But off the couch, it's not that, there's not just this joy flowing, because there's blood, there's reactivity, there's fights, there's fear, and so just trying to help them bring more joy into the world.
Right.
And happiness into the world, finding dogs that possess that naturally, and it's unwavering in their physiology and their consciousness. And pairing those with people who are maybe a bit more elevated, who can match that joy and give to those beings. So it's definitely a very different approach that they're shifting to, which we admire.
Yeah.
It's less quantity as opposed to quality, which you just don't really see in the rescue industry. So yeah, shout out to them.
Yeah, it was really fun.
Beautiful weekend.
I love that. That's amazing.
And we've talked about that for years with the Jentle Method.
Yeah.
Because there were qualities of that in what we were showing and going over. And some of the people there had done workshops, and they were just having all these light bulbs because they were seeing things cross over in the application. But yeah, we've talked about integrating that for so long, because you feel the animal that you can't, the way that they feel on lead is not going to lie to you. Like, they can't hide who they are in that, if you're able to feel it and listen to them. Way more so than just looking at a dog. Like, it's so much different to see them. And even you'll say this, is people will be showing you a dog and they're like, what do you think? And then you'll say, I have some information, but I'm going to need to take a hold of that lead to get the rest of the information.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Feeling.
No, go ahead.
Feeling's so different than just one sense, like a visual sense.
Yeah.
Audible sense.
It's way different.
Yeah.
Way
Well,
different.
To segue this, I would love to hear why you're here. Anne.
Why I'm here right now.
Aside from us asking
you.
I was gonna say, first of all, you invited me, and it's such an honor. When I read your text, Cole, asking me to be here, my first thought was, what an honor! Wow, very, very special. So thank you both again. It means a lot. Yeah,
us too.
Very, very cool.
But I guess the question is, what about our work has had you come back?
Yeah.
What have you felt? What have you seen? What's been your experience?
Yeah.
Because we know that we're different.
Yes.
We know that we talk differently, we act differently, we handle dogs differently. Yeah.
So when I don't even really remember how I first heard about you guys. I want to say it was because of Lynn Boki sharing that he went to visit you guys, right?
Yeah, he was the first one to come and visit us and see us in action and communicate with us.
Yeah, and I don't know if he shared it on his social media or
he did.
And I talked to him a lot too, so maybe he shared it in a private moment, just saying how much he admired the work that you both do. And I also I very much respect Lynn and his work, and so when he says that about somebody, it means something. And so I got curious, right? And so I think I started following you guys on Instagram, and just first watching the pack videos and how peaceful and harmonious everything looked, I was like, this is wonderful. I didn't know anything about the Jentle Method at that point. I just saw the videos and I thought, this is beautiful and I love it, and I wish every single dog could have a life like that. Understanding that you guys take them out for hours and hours and hours, and they are able to have this off-leash freedom, just looked magical to me. And then I wanted to learn more. And so then I think when you guys came here for the first time and I took the workshop with Buddha.
You were our host.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because Art then invited you guys over.
Yeah.
And I took the workshop, and that was my actual first hands-on experience to do it myself. Because I can watch videos all day long, but I will not really understand it, so I was like, okay, I need my own hands-on experience, and for you guys to tell me, do it this way, do it that way. That was then the tipping point for me. In a very simple term, people just see, you walk around in a circle for 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And that sounds like a lot of work.
Right.
And it is a lot of, right?
Big circle and then a smaller circle.
Yes.
But it's just still a circle.
But when you really just dumb it down, when nobody knows anything about anything that you do, you just see people walking around in a circle for 3 hours, right? And so when I got to experience it for the first time, and I had a very difficult relationship with Buddha at that time, because he was just very challenging for us, and having limited time and children, it was hard for me to get a handle on what was going on. But I also wanted to help him, but then I was getting frustrated with myself because I couldn't help him with the tools that I had in my own toolbox at the time, right? I tried everything and nothing was working. And so then when I signed up for the workshop and I did the 3 days of 3 hours every day, not only did everything shift inside of me in the sense of how I felt about him, I felt everything shift in him. There was so much gratitude coming from him, almost saying, oh my God, finally somebody understands me here, and I love doing this. That was so beautiful and emotional too. And at the same time, doing the work brings out something inside of me that just feels right. It feels peaceful. And in my life in general, I have always looked for inner peace. I wanted to find inner peace. You know, that's why I went on my whole yoga journey and self-discovery and reading all the books that I've read. And I just wanted that for myself. And it was almost like bridging the gap between the dog world and what I was looking for. I was able to find that. And so that was such a beautiful moment for me to experience that. And now every time I do it, I now have that tool to bring that back, to bring that feeling back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So pretty much ever since then, I've been obsessed with you guys in a very positive way. Not in a stalky way. And, you know, I've just been fortunate enough to get to know you guys over the years a little bit better. And I've mentioned this to you guys last year or 2 years ago when I saw you again, how my nervous system responds very, very well to being in your guys' presence. And it just brings me so much peace and joy. So
that is an honor.
Yeah.
That is a very special thing to when you feel that way around people. That's very special.
We have the same resonance with you. And we also, I remember kind of having that. I had that with my mentor, master, you could say, just growing up in Maharishi. And other very special, elevated individuals growing up. But then outside of that meditation, spiritual community, I didn't really find that until Buck. And then just going to his clinics, it was just infectious, that vibration, that energy that permeated from him, as well as his hands. Not his hands, literally his hands, but his helpers, his helpers. So it's such a visceral thing, and something that's so enjoyable to be around. So just that resonance.
I loved your point about when you practice, how that feeling comes back. And that is such, I want to say it feels like a reason why people continue to practice, is that once you feel that, it's almost like you have an instant tool to bring you there.
Absolutely.
Which can be hard to find consistently. And it takes practice, and maybe it takes a little bit to get into the flow of it and to let the day go. But once you're there, it's so special to have that level of presence. It's almost like we've equated it to like a moving meditation before.
That's what I call it too.
But it's so special to have that with a dog. Like, you're not alone in your practice sitting doing meditation. You're active and moving in connection with your companion, with a dog. It's so I had no idea that would come out of it, but even that alone is
it's way different than walking them on a loose leash without that connection, or having them in a place board far away from you. It's just, there's something that's
or
just
even
so
like
vastly
throwing a ball
different.
with them,
or throwing a ball. It's a different vibration. It's a different level of connection and feeling.
So we kind of talked about this because we saw you last summer in Oregon. And you were talking about taking a step back from working with other people's dogs. And then you did it.
I did.
You did it. Yeah, you said you had a deadline and you stuck to it. It was like December of this year, right?
December 31st.
Because we touched on it a little bit, but what were some of the big factors for you in that? Because Jonathan and I have both left the industry for, I'm sure all three of us have very different reasons, but it's a big move.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Art started the business, and then I joined him And then it became our business together, right? So for me to take a step out of that took a lot of courage.
Mm-hmm.
I had toyed with that idea for a couple of years, but didn't have that courage to do it, to really, in the end, it was mainly to stand up for myself and to own what I believe in, and what I believe was important for me at that time, to really do it. And so there's, I think, various reasons. It's not just one big one why I did it. And so one is I wanted our relationship to be a relationship again. I know several people, you guys work together and it's working beautifully, right? It wasn't working for us, in the sense that, you know, we have little children, we have our own dogs, and then we were running around from appointment to appointment, and so we already weren't spending a whole lot of time together.
Right.
And so whenever we would spend time together, it ended up being a conversation about the business, in the sense of like, have you caught this person? What can we do with this dog? When are we going to fit this person in? Can you drop this leash off with that person? So it was very, just a business conversation at that point, right? So I'm not talking to my husband, I'm talking to my business partner.
Right.
And it's great if it works and then you can have a break and you are just partners, but it was bleeding into everything in our lives, right? And sure, that's a boundary issue, if you want to call it that, on our part. Could we have changed that? Sure. But it just wasn't working, right? And so, you know, we would have date night and I would talk about, okay, but let's make sure the schedule is set for next week and this person and that person. And, you know, afterwards I felt bad. He has a way better way of shutting it out. It was, for me, the business was consuming everything. And so that was one reason.
Maybe that's the German in us, because I've got some German in me, and I'm very one-pointed in terms of the things that I get consumed with, and
or you care about it. It's like a part of your family,
exactly,
and you want it to be.
It's this living, breathing thing,
absolutely,
you know, and you want it to succeed, and
yeah, absolutely. And I think that what you just said, Cole, about I care, is actually one of the other reasons. I cared so much about the dog's success and how they were feeling that it ate me up, in the sense that, you know, the way the traditional dog industry works, I know you guys work differently, right? But the way the traditional dog industry works, or mainstream, or whatever you want to call it, you have very, very limited time with a dog.
Yeah.
It's either a one-off session, or it's the 2-week board and train. There's always a time limit on there, right? And so to me, it was very hard to try to get a dog to this quote-unquote perfect place, because that was what the owner expected, right? So they pay me quite a bit of money, completely understand it's not cheap, right? And then they expect some level of a perfect result, to the point where they don't have to do anything after.
It's like unattainable almost.
It is.
Yeah.
it's very unrealistic.
Yeah. It is very unrealistic. And even if I try to communicate, this can be a great foundation, and you will need to keep this up keep this going, put in work, a lot of times it wasn't met with the same understanding, right? And so a lot of times I would then get so frustrated with myself because I would think, okay, I didn't do enough. I didn't get the dog to the perfect place, or I didn't make it easy enough for the owner to have this dog and not have to do anything after. And again, as you said, it's unattainable. It doesn't work like that. This is a living being. And they have a mind.
And I had the same thoughts and feelings so many years ago, and it didn't feel good. And at that point, I didn't leave the industry, but we just pivoted in how we handle dogs.
Right.
To mitigate that pressure.
We also set up our business to also...
Yes. Our business wasn't training and board and trains. It was give us your dog. We're going to go enjoy with them and elevate them.
Over time.
And that was our business model. But then seeing Buck, they work on the horse's timeline. They're not...
They'll work with them their whole life.
Exactly. So it's just, that was very eye-opening. But I've felt those very same feelings, and it doesn't sit well.
No.
It just, honestly, as you're talking, it just feels like pressure. It's pressure during, it's pressure after,
Yeah.
Even before you go into a session or into a consultation, meeting somebody, you have read their email about what their goals and whatnot, and they want to, get to that goal within a week or something like that.
They want their dog to be the ring bearer at their wedding.
Exactly.
And it just bit them last week.
Yeah, exactly. Something like that, right? And at the same time, honestly, I can't even really blame the owner for it, because that's just how this dog industry is set up these days. Everybody does it that way. And then you see on social media these before and after videos. Oh, the dog was so horrible. You see the dog flailing around on the leash. This is when I met the dog. And then they post a video at the very end of one session, dogs walking on a loose leash. We don't care, right, about how the dog is actually feeling or what had to happen to get from that point to that point. People just see that result and they're like, well, that's what I want.
And the result also means fixed.
Exactly.
Not, oh, they're walking nicely for that 3-second clip. It's, oh, that dog now will always walk on a loose lead
for the rest of their life.
For the rest of their life with any person.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was another, point for me. Even if I got that dog to an amazing point, when you then transfer it back, it's a completely different story, right? Because they're going to live with that person that is not putting in the work, or they don't even want to work on themselves in any kind of capacity. And then transferring that leash back and then seeing that dog walk down the street with that person a month later, or they call back 6 months later telling me all the horrible things that dog has done. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it's very defeating.
Honestly, it sounds like all the beings are frustrated.
Exactly.
It's like the person who's there to help, the dog and human is frustrated.
Right.
The dog is frustrated. That person is frustrated. It's just...
It's and all for different reasons.
Yes,
right?
Yes, totally.
I'm frustrated because I feel defeated as if I didn't do my job, but at the same time, I also feel frustrated because I can see that they didn't do their job. They're frustrated, first of all, probably with me, because they think, well, this should have been easy. Why is that dog good for her but not for me? Then there's probably some level of defeat or embarrassment. Why can't I do this? Why does it look so easy for Anne or the other trainers?
Right.
Dog is frustrated on all sorts of levels and feels misunderstood.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is kind of the quote unquote nice thing about doing obedience per se. is that it's just a simple framework. The dog comes out of the cage. They perform these tasks. If they don't, they get punished or they get kind of rewarded, and then they go back in the cage. And it's very regimented and everything. But again, as Cole and I feel, it's just, what about the feeling of the dog?
Right.
It's like, cool, they're listening to you and everything. They're compliant in all of these things, but what is the feeling of the dog? Yeah. How are you getting to that process? What's the quality of life? Right. Yes, they're alive, but they spend an hour outside of the cage a day. Right. Which, teach their own. Like, there's no judgment for us. Like, we let judgment fall by the wayside so many years ago. Right. But for those of us who do feel in this way, that's a completely different path.
No, you
So you led with, you really feel for dogs, and that was kind of a catalyst for this whole shift.
Yes, I feel for dogs, and I feel a lot for people. And so as I was working with the dogs and their owners, I would not only feel the dog's feelings, but I would feel the person's feelings, and I could tell there's so much going on in their lives. And you know, a lot of times people get dogs to compensate for something else. Sometimes that works, but then depending on the dog and their personality and their feelings, the one that you get, that might escalate everything, right? Like, I want the dog because I'm not getting the partner that I'm longing for, so now my dog is the replacement for the partner, but I'm also dumping all of my feelings on this dog because I'm really sad and lonely inside, and so now that I need this dog to be perfect, why is this dog anxious? There's a lot of stuff going on, right? And so for me, it was always a little bit hard to find that fine line of poking a little bit at the human too.
Yeah.
Because I ultimately want the human to feel better too, right? Like, I want the dog and the human to have a great life. And so obviously they're hiring me as a dog trainer. They're just saying, go fix my dog. But I'm looking at this from a more holistic angle. And I can fix your dog all day long, and it's going to be good with me and happy with me. But if you don't work on yourself at all, because it's all about being in control, and it's about, I don't want to even go there to expand and feel feelings, it's going to be really hard for me to transfer that dog over. And so I feel like there were a lot of moments where I also really felt for the human, and I wanted to have a conversation with them on a just human level, like, hey, what can we do to help you out here? But it's not my place to be, right? Because they didn't hire me as a therapist or a life coach, because they hired me as a dog trainer. And sometimes people were open to it, but a lot of times it was like, well, I don't have a problem, go fix my dog.
This isn't about me.
Exactly. It's never about them, it's always about the dog.
Yeah.
And the dog does everything wrong.
Yeah.
You know?
I appreciate your awareness around that and not overstepping and going into the human's court and poking a lot at the, you know, healthy poking is good, but kind of breaking them down about all the things you're seeing in the person, because as you work with animals and beings more, you're going to see and be able to feel other things from people. But yeah, that awareness of, I said there are things here, but it's also really not my place.
Right.
But it also is a part of it.
Yes.
And how do you look away from that and put half of the equation aside and just look at the other half?
Yeah, that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
That's a hard thing to do. I remember when we started teaching, because we taught, it was just how we used to handle dogs was more Caesar-esque, you know, and then we shifted to more what we do now.
Right.
But just giving people a framework to help their relationship, and not necessarily going into those other things. That when we really was just like, this is the framework, if you do it, it will help. If you don't, then that's it. And it's just kind of very cut and dry, and not necessarily getting into all of the nitty gritty stuff and whatnot. You either do the work or you don't, and then that's on you. But making that on a very subtle and yet concrete level within myself, I remember that being fairly challenging, because we do care about people. Like, why do we get into this industry? Joy. Like, we want the dogs to enjoy, and we want the humans to enjoy. But at some point, years go by and you're like, where's the joy? And that happened. And Cole was I say that she was probably the biggest catalyst for this shift in how we handle, because of when she left the industry. She left Oregon Tails. And that was just, what is happening? Like, we have to change how we're doing things. Because if she can't do it, how am I expecting these other people to do it? And so
someone who's devoted and dedicated and showing up every day, trying to do the work, and it's just not.
And so then I obviously started looking at the mechanics and the tools and like all of those things that we were using. And then it morphed. But it was really just this kind of aha moment of, there wasn't as much enjoyment as there could be.
There was it was like the enjoyment just dwindled in me, and that's why I left. It was a part of why I left. But a lot of the time leading up to that was, you would come out and try to help me, and I would end up breaking down crying, and you'd take my dogs because you were like, this isn't healthy for them because of the state that I was in. And it's different a little bit from how you left, because I had nothing else. I just had the traditional corrections, treats, e-collars, treats, corrections, that kind of thing, to fall back on and to use in a pretty advanced situation. It's not
55 plus dogs off leashes on unfenced properties is pretty advanced. That's as advanced as it gets with all breeds and behavior types.
I was walking like maybe 15 at the time. So it was, and I wasn't doing even the really hard dogs. But I mean, we didn't even try to get into treats, because I think we did it for like a day, and it was so awful that we just scrapped it.
It was instant. There's no way this is going to happen.
This is not going to, the dog's state of mind is off the charts. They're not out enjoying anymore. They're just fixated on me. They're all over me. Like, the energy of that is just insane. And then we stuck pretty hard into corrections and e-collars. That was what seemed to get the better results for the longer amount of time.
Like 80% of the time, everything was fine. But we were just waiting for that 20%.
Well, I was more at like 40% of the time. I was not doing okay. But I remember you would come out with me, and I'd be working with a fairly challenging dog. Maybe like, I remember this one, and it was prey drive. She had really intense hunting dog, serious prey drive. And it was all about perfection of the moment of the correction. So like, if you missed the window by a split second, the window's gone and it didn't work and it's over. That was the pressure behind that, in the intensity of watching and staring and waiting for them to look off, and then And then you're like, what kind of correction? How intense is it going to be?
Well, you have to catch the prey before they do, and then go from the prey down to them, and just either catch them right at that moment, or you're just staring at them waiting.
Oh my God. I remember I'd go in for it, and then John would be like, you missed it. And I'm like, fuck. Oh my God. Okay.
Yes.
I'll try. It sounds like you've had this experience.
I'm laughing because when I first started and Art taught me everything, you know, I went to Caesar's workshop. I learned from all these different people in the balanced dog training industry and whatnot, right? And you know, you watch other people do it, and they get the timing right.
Yeah.
And they get somewhere with that, right? And so I'm like, well, I gotta learn that. I have to perfect the timing.
Yeah.
And so I remember moments of, okay, I'm gonna do it. Muster up my courage, right? At the same time, already knowing I don't really like doing this, right? But well, this is how we do things.
Yeah.
Know? So you just do it, right? So, and then, of course, I would miss it.
Of course.
Right? And then, sweetheart, I mean, he would be able to do it, right? But he would say, well, yeah, that was too late. Or the intensity wasn't right. And I'm like, well, how do I get that right?
Yes.
How do I get it right? And it's really hard to explain.
Yeah.
You know, and he's like, well, you just need to feel it. You just need to do it, and then you need to know. And I'm like, well, I don't feel it, and I don't know, and I'm not getting it. And then I would be frustrated, and then he would be frustrated that I was frustrated, and then we weren't getting it, and then he would...
Meanwhile, the dog's just gone.
Exactly.
Like,
But
mentally, emotionally, behavior's gone.
Yeah, this is all out the window. To then the point of, let me just take the dog.
Yeah.
And then that would frustrate me more because now I would feel defeated.
Yes.
Like, didn't get it again.
And then to your point, they do it perfectly, and then the dog's subdued, and you're like, oh, great.
Yes.
Great.
Yep,
This is bringing all the good feelings up in
We
me.
ran through that hundreds of times. Hundreds of times.
But to a point that you're seeming to touch on a little bit, and I feel like there's resonance between us, is the scalability of that. Unless you're using an e-collar, and even with an e-collar, you max out. The e-collar hits its limit, and if the dog has not submitted or yielded or whatever, you're at your max with that. If you're not using e-collars, my max is much lower than John's. And I remember that feeling of correcting a dog and thinking, okay, I'm at 7 out of 10%. I got a little bit more, and then I'd maybe go in 8, 9, 10, and then I'm maxed out. And they're still at the same place. And that feeling of being, it's like your tools are gone all of a sudden. Because you're helpless.
Right.
You're helpless because you have nowhere else to go because you're maxed.
Right.
And a lot of times, unless the dog is sensitive and soft and this, they would beat me. They're like, yeah, I'll wait for her to max out. And then I get to stay in my state of mind. I get to keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah. I totally feel that. And that is pretty much when I shifted to, I will only work with fearful and sensitive and feral and timid dogs. Because I just, for the life of me, could not get my energy to that level. And it didn't matter to me how many Caesar videos I would watch of him doing it perfectly timed, and I just didn't have it. And I also was not able to bring my energy to that level of dealing with aggression. That is not who I am as a person. And sure, you could say, well, you can learn that. Sure. But I also never felt like I wanted to learn that. I never felt the need for me to change who I am deep down inside to that level of, oh, great, now I feel like I can boss around an aggressive 120-pound pit bull.
Yeah.
You know, I just could not and did not want to do it. And so that's when I was like, okay, what is in my capacity where I don't feel like I have to constantly overcompensate, or I have to now act out of frustration? Because Art would always say, never ever correct a dog out of frustration. If you're frustrated, don't even work with the dog.
Yeah.
And which is true, you know, this is completely right.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get it when I wasn't frustrated, and when I was frustrated, I didn't even want to do it. And, you know, it was just a disaster waiting to happen if somebody handed me a dog like that, right? And that's when I shifted to, okay, what can I do within my capacity? And when I started working with really only the fearful dogs, sometimes puppies, you know, fearful dogs, very timid dogs, I was able to bring my patience. People who also adopted fearful dogs, most of the time they had more patience.
Yeah.
And so I had more time. It wasn't this, oh, here's my jumpy dog, fix this in one session. No, this is my fearful dog. I don't know if they're ever going to get better. And when I would come in with showing them tiny little baby steps, people would be like, whoa. Not that I wanted to come in and be the miracle worker or magician. It was mainly about giving them a little bit of hope. No, there's some room. We can work with this, you know? And so when I found that, I found more joy in the work, because there was no need for a correction. There was no need to be harsh with any kind of, you know, leash pop or whatever. It didn't feel good anyways. And so I found my place in that.
It's almost like building a dog up instead of breaking a dog down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
It's so around this time when Cole left, it's not that I'm a numb individual, but my capacity to feel heat and cold and work for extremely long periods of time, it's very elevated. I can be very hard and I can be very soft. I joke that I'm the hardest person in the dog industry, and I'm also maybe the softest. But I think that what happened, what I realized is that I didn't enjoy that either. I was really good at it and it came very effortlessly, but it wasn't very enjoyable correcting these dogs. So, and I think that is something that I am hearing more and more from men in the industry, is that they are coming to more of a realization that they don't enjoy doing that either. They don't enjoy it. And I think that might be one, this is just me and my observation, but I think that might be one reason why more play is becoming more popular. Is they're offsetting that feeling of dominance and hard corrections and stuff with this element of play to combat that that not so awesome feeling, which is understandable. Which is understandable. To me, the next step is going farther, which is the underlying feeling of the dog. Because whether you're correcting them and then switching to play, it's still this elevated kind of instinctual nature. Because play that's the instincts. It's usually with a ball or a toy, which is prey drive.
It's also, that's a high energetic state.
It's also a high energetic state, not a peaceful one.
Yeah.
And then the corrections that's obvious. You correct a dog for doing something incorrectly, the pain that they feel is adrenaline, which triggers their instincts, self-preservation, so on and so forth. So either way you slice it, the feeling isn't peace. The feeling is it's elevated in nature. And that's kind of, I guess we just kind of thankfully with natural horsemanship got more to and meditation got more to that place. We didn't go to the corrections mixed with play.
Well, play wasn't even really around back then.
It wasn't. Definitely not the way it is now.
Yeah, we're talking
but like throwing the ball and stuff, like
Yeah.
I've always done that.
Yeah.
But it wasn't used as a training tool.
Yeah, but like, ouch, now come get the squeaky toy or whatever.
Yeah.
That wasn't really in play, pun intended.
Yeah. No,
Intended?
Pun
more of a
intended.
recent thing.
Yeah.
I see that more and more.
Way more. But it's still involving an elevated nature and state of mind, which for somebody who's meditated and has been really keen on peace and harmony, that wasn't ever really something that I didn't ping pong or pinball
Right.
off of corrections to that, because I was like, it's the opposite side of the pendulum,
Right.
but it's the same kind of frequency.
Yeah.
Yes, you're playing with them in a high energy state, but to me that just looks and feels the same as hitting them with a 60, 70, or 80 on an e-collar.
Yeah.
And same with food. Maybe not to necessarily the same elevated state, but it's just
It can be.
it's the same. It's just the opposite side of the pendulum.
Absolutely.
Well, to the point about this frequency thing, when I was out with the pack still before I left and then came back, I had like the medium energy dogs. So I didn't have the high reactivity, the high drive, the really intense dogs. I didn't have the really soft either. But I had a lot of, and I mentioned this a little bit in another podcast, I had a lot of high energy anxiety. Like this one dog, he was like 10. And he would just, I swear to, his energy felt like he was running around me in circles all day. And then you'd load him up and he'd be at the same energetic place.
Yeah.
He was running circles around you.
He literally, it was, if he was off, like free, it was, and then when he was with me, he was just this kinetic energy. It was so intense to work with, because what we were trying to do is correct a dog out of that state, to correct a dog out of anxiety. I'm like, you can't punish a dog out of anxiety. I guess you can, but I couldn't.
You subdue them enough.
Right.
But
they learn enough times to just be like.
But it's suppressed.
It's suppressing. It's suppression.
Suppressed. Yeah. I came across this chart recently, and it's called the emotional frequency chart. And it has, I mean, it's not our Bible or anything. It's not going to be the end all be all, but it was interesting to look at the different feelings and their frequencies. So like the highest frequency is like enlightenment, you could say. The second highest frequency would be peace. The third would be joy. The fourth is love. And so those are like the highest vibrations. The lowest vibrations are shame, guilt, apathy, fear. And then in the middle, there's willingness, neutrality, acceptance. And when I looked at this chart, I looked at it and then immediately thought about dogs, because that happens. And it's always there.
I wonder why.
Surprise.
But I was looking at it and I'm like, fear is a low frequency. And when you correct a dog, that's fear. That's me using something that they don't like, that maybe causes them pain. And they now have fear of that thing. So when they run too far and they hear me, the response is fear. And that's where I'm working, is on that frequency level. And even if you're working on fear, like reactivity is fear. If you're using fear to work on fear,
it's still fear.
It's still fear.
It just cancels out. It's just fear.
Yeah.
It's
And
double
then
fear.
right above fear is desire and craving. And to me, that goes to
just
food.
I think
Desire
what's
for food.
what's so cool about this thing is that it just illustrated our feelings.
Exactly.
It's so beautiful. When she showed this to me, I was just like, whoa, this thing just completely is just illustrating what we've been feeling for so long and observing in our feelings with handling dogs.
And why things weren't working.
Yeah.
Right.
And it was so clear to see it this way. Of course, they're not going to come up to reason and acceptance and willingness, which are a little higher frequencies, because I'm working with them in this same...
You're keeping them there.
I'm keeping them there.
Yeah.
And I feel like what we've done is and you say this so much, is not working, is just not working on that level, but elevating them and moving through their fear instead of using a different form of fear.
Or desire.
Or desire to eat, desire for food,
that's
desire
just
for
above
toy.
Fear.
It's just, and then, but also, like, the higher quote-unquote frequencies are willingness. And we talk about that in our work, is willingness to work, willingness to be there and to show up or to stand or to walk or to put forth effort. And so when we see a dog come out of fear and move into willingness, that's something that we usually praise. We connect with them. We're like, thank you for your willingness to move with me, or your willingness to...
And I think it's really important to note, too, is that desire is not willingness. Desire is desire.
Right.
Yeah, they're different frequencies on this list.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a different motivating factor.
Yeah. And then like moving up into acceptance. Like we'll talk about that as well. That's the frequency above willingness is acceptance. And so they might not love taking a bath, but they accept it. And they're like, oh, this is a part of life.
Right.
I accept this this process that I'm going to have to go through.
One thing we talked about this weekend that kind of I came into my awareness like a few months ago was likes and dislikes as opposed to preferences. We want to have dogs that have preferences, not likes and dislikes. Preferences, there's more acceptance in a preference. I prefer not to take a bath. I prefer to not run a mile because I'm lazy or whatever, but I'll do it. But likes and dislikes, those are very black and white, and that's when you're going to get a lot more conflict.
Yes.
A lot more conflict. So...
I love that.
I don't like that dog.
I don't like that
or
human.
I don't want you to leave me.
Yeah.
Or I really like this food.
Yeah.
And I'm just panicked in how much I can't wait to eat my dinner. Can we come out of that?
I really like this food and not that food. So if you don't give me that food, I'm not going to listen to you.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's just we want a dog that has preferences, and that's it. And that to us is there's much more openness and willingness and flexibility in that as opposed to the likes and dislikes.
Do you feel that with your children?
Yes.
Like, is that a part of navigating things with them?
How similar are children and dogs?
We are not parents.
We are not parents, but we have observations.
No, I think that's a really good point. And I think that is also how I parent. You know, there's certain things that you may not like, but they are, first of all, for safety or whatever it may be, for community, for existing within our family, that you may not like.
Or understand.
But we're going to do it anyway. You know, yes, or things that you may not understand yet. You know, and we're still going to do them, but not in a I'm punishing you to get to this point.
Or forcing you.
Or how dare you not understand or
Yes.
like this, or
Yes, absolutely. There's no shame. You know, that's, I feel like, is a really big one for me. I don't shame in my parenting.
shame is the lowest frequency on this chart.
Yeah, and I have throughout my growing up have experienced a lot of shame coming at me, and I internalized it. It's a really shitty feeling, so I am doing my best. I'm not saying I'm perfect in parenting by any means, but I'm doing my best to not project any of that, because I know how awful it feels.
Right.
Right? And so I invite mistakes. I'm not, and that's very similar to dogs, right? They may mess up. Okay, well then how can I guide you out of that? But go mess up again,
Yeah.
so that we can work through it, and then you learn again.
Yeah.
Because if the kids mess up and I come in with, oh my God, are you seriously doing this again? And I shame them and or punish them or anything like that, then they become fearful, to your point from earlier, right? And they may try to hide a certain behavior or a desire. What could be sneaking things, or it could be lying about something, or it could be hiding something from me, right? Because I'm punishing them for the mistake they made, but it's just a child testing a boundary and trying to figure out life.
And they may start to succeed in that, but the foundation is fear and shame.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so,
They're doing it because they
Exactly.
yeah.
and that, I feel, is the most important thing. What's the foundational thing, the component of the success?
Why are
quote
they doing
unquote
it?
success?
Yeah.
Is it because of fear, or is it
Exactly.
because they just understand that that's maybe the right thing to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's just built into natural horsemanship, and that's built into how we work with dogs, is that level of patience. It's like you will fail at something, and I'm not going to shame you, I'm not going to pain you, I'm going to just hold your hand like you would
And guide.
Okay.
a child that doesn't understand 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't punish them for that. You just, what do? You hold them back a grade and a grade and a grade until they figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
You try to work with them.
Yeah.
And we just, so many people don't do that in the dog industry. If you don't understand 1 + 1 = 2, or it's like, okay, well, I'll buy you an iPad if you figure this out more quickly, or you'll get to watch your favorite show if you figure this out. And that's desire.
Right.
And so the foundation is desire, with which you then propel these beings to learn. It's not just
Like
and that is such a big component of our work of natural horsemanship. Yeah.
And of raising kids.
Yeah.
And
It could
some
be-
parents
some
of
parents
raising
raising
kids.
Yes, absolutely.
To finish this chart, though,
Yeah.
I feel like the point of not working where they're at, not working in the fear with the fear, or in anger's pretty low too. But we're always coming back to peace, coming back to joy, coming back
That's
to...
where we end.
That's where we're always shooting back for, is this might be where you're functioning right now. You might be functioning in anger or in apathy or whatever.
Desire.
Despair, desire, craving, hate. I will do everything in my power to help you through that feeling so that we can move to a different feeling.
Yeah.
So that we can move up and up and up and up. And then where we land with the dogs that we work with is peace and joy and love. And maybe a little bit of enlightenment with Juno, but I can't, that's, but I mean, it's it's moving up into those spaces where we want to function too. I want to function in peace. I want to live my life in joy. And to your points earlier, I want as much of my ability to just love and love and love and love on my companions instead of, love and then anger and then desire and then shame and then love and then shame and then apathy and then courage. It's doing our best within ourselves and then doing our best as the guide for another being to raise their experience of how they feel and raise their experience of the world so that they're like, life is great. I just get to enjoy and be at peace and love everything. Like, this is great.
And to your point from earlier, that requires awareness, though.
Yeah.
Right? There are, unfortunately, so many people that have never experienced peace, that have never experienced love, that have never experienced joy. And so when they naturally, or based on learned behaviors or upbringing, operate in those lower frequencies, it's going to take a lot to get them out of that so that they can guide their dogs in return or their children in return.
Yeah.
You know?
Totally.
So that's where I always land with, it takes both the human and the dog, right? I love that chart, by the way.
Yeah,
it's wonderful. Like, it's such a beautiful way to have a visual.
Exactly.
You know?
And I think that also that's part of the learning process for a person is maybe they're living in fear or in anger, but then you go to a workshop or you learn meditation or you go to a yoga class or you leave your job. That's courage. That's a step out of that place of anger or of apathy.
Exactly. Which then builds
maybe you take another step and you're like, okay, now I'm neutral. And so I'm not reactive anymore, but I'm not quite in this blissful place, you could say, but I'm a little bit more neutral in life. Or maybe I drop down and up and down, but there's movement. And that's the growing process for humans, could be.
Right.
And then that's also a growing process that is possible for dogs.
Right. And I think that is one of the most profound things for me in the Jentle Method, because you don't have to tell the human, go work on yourself when you're teaching your workshops, right? It will come out naturally because if they're able, and I think it takes a lot for some people that may be in those lower frequencies, but there's some level of openness to the Jentle Method and to your teachings and to learning from you, that when they're in that space and they do move with that dog for 3 hours,
they will feel something.
It will come up.
Yep.
They may not know what to do with it, and it may frustrate them at some point, and they may even have feelings of, oh my God, how much longer do I have to do this, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. They can have their feelings about it, but it plants a seed,
Yep.
right? And if they can find that space, and even if it's for an hour a day with their dog, they're going to grow and heal together and expand and have more awareness, and they will learn about themselves without even knowing that they're learning about themselves.
Yep. Well, the thing about handling dogs in this way through feeling is like all we're guiding you to do is feel.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what you feel, it's just feel. Because when you learn to feel, then you get more comfortable sitting in those feelings.
Right.
And then when you sit in fear or whatever for a while, it dissolves, and then you're able to move to the next frequency.
Or just what comes up next.
Yeah.
Right.
Or it could lead to, you could pop down to more apathy because you're like, I don't like the way that felt.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's okay.
Yeah.
And you sit in apathy for a while, and then you get your courage again to do it a little bit more. But it's all about feeling, and feeling for some people, and for us working with dogs, we're just about to do our 50th workshop in Massachusetts. But for a lot of dogs that we've seen over the years, that I would say that the vast majority are not matched with the right dog. Most of the dogs that we see are advanced in their ability to feel and their feelings. And the humans are not advanced in their ability to feel. And so when you get that combination, it could be very volatile and shameful and guilt feeling and anger filled, because what do those people want to do? They want to experience joy with their dog. But they didn't lead with feeling initially when they chose the dog.
Right.
And that got them into a boat of feeling trouble. And so that's where we're just guiding people. We're like, okay, you need to learn how to feel this dog and what they feel, and not judge it, but learn how to guide it to those higher frequencies. And a lot of people don't have the work ethic or the time necessarily to do it, but we always say, work with your dog until they feel better. Not perfect, but don't make them feel bad for what they're doing. Don't distract them from their feelings, but work with them until they feel better each time. And that is it is the polar opposite of how people handle dogs in the dog industry now, because if you're using an e-collar, a correction, or a toy, what's the feeling that you're leaving the dog with there? Yes, they're complying, but if you think about the feeling, they just felt 80 on a shock collar, 30 on a shock collar. I don't know how that feels to them. Right. But it doesn't feel good. Right?
Yeah.
So what are you leading with? And so with how we guide people, it's just end with peace, more peace. But if you're using those other tools, you're visually getting compliance, but you probably are not getting peace.
It's the same thing that we were doing this weekend. I can see a dog in a cage and see body language and cues and all this stuff. That's only a part of it. Right. If you have a dog out on a long line on an e-collar and you correct him,
or a flexi leash,
or a flexi leash, and you communicate on that tool, you're just getting visual information of what their response is. Whereas the way we work, you're getting some visual cues of how they're feeling about it and responding. You're also getting a direct link with them through feeling on the lead of what their response is. And to this chart point, this comes back to what we were talking about with children and how their expressions are okay. Is the quote-unquote lower frequencies, those are great frequencies. There's nothing wrong with those frequencies at all. There's nothing wrong with anger. There's nothing wrong with
shame
or apathy or guilt, or because they exist and they need to exist, and they're serving a purpose for that being. They're finding some level of comfort and
necessity,
safety and necessity in those, and value in those things. And that's
the funny thing about that comment is that that's a very peaceful comment. A very enlightened comment. And so you're coming at it from the highest frequency, looking at the lowest frequency, and that's just it's such a beautiful thing. And that's really the point of when you're able to be attached to these beings, or be guiding these children in this intimate way, and have that level of appreciation even for those things that don't feel good to them, or to you, and be able to navigate it and not instigate those feelings, or perpetuate those feelings in them. That's the magic. That's the magic. That is a very beautiful point, though.
What?
That point of those lower things being totally okay.
I think that it's going to be hard to talk about this because it's a visual thing, but something that we talk about that we're touching on right now is that if we're in a place of guiding another being, whether it's maybe a child or a dog, they're going to have ups and downs. They're going to have a wave of an up feeling and then a down feeling, and it's going to be, I don't know, like a heartbeat on a monitor or something where there's volatility to it. And the way we're describing about moving through these feelings with them is that they're riding these waves, these ups and downs, and we're there for them and we're there with them, but we're not riding that up and down with them, which can happen with needing to make your energy really big because the dog's being really big, and then make your energy really small because the dog's being really soft. Instead of just maintaining yourself and not getting sucked in to their highs and their lows and being affected by this and that, still feeling them and loving them and being there for them and trying to understand and navigate and adjust and reflect, and all this stuff is going on our end. We're not just sitting there in apathy like, well, I guess they're just freaking out, but not also getting sucked into the current with them. That has been a huge relief for me. And I feel like that comes back to the correction thing too, and needing to be perfectly timed. Is now I don't have to be perfectly timed, and I can get there when I get there. And then be there to support and then move through the feeling with them instead of riding the waves with them. And that's emotionally exhausting.
What you just described reminded me of, there's a parenting coach that I follow on Instagram, Dr. Becky Kennedy. And she has this really wonderful analogy of, picture yourself in an airplane, you're the pilot, and you're going to have to make an emergency landing. And you make the announcement that we're going to have to make an emergency landing now. And if you make the announcement coming from fear, hey guys, I'm really sorry, I don't really know how we're going to land this plane, but I hope it's gonna work out. Anybody else have an idea here how we can land this plane? You as the passenger, you're going to freak out because there's no guidance coming from that person. Or the other way around, if the pilot yells at everybody saying, stop this right now, there's no need for you guys to freak out, I got it, shut up, or whatever. Do you feel safe with that pilot? Probably not. But if it's a very sturdy energy that comes, hey, this is what we're going to do, I got it, I got you guys, we're going to do this now, you feel safe and you trust that person. It's the same thing when you lead a child with that energy, if you lead a dog with that energy. But if you come in with that sturdiness, totally cool, you can freak out, it doesn't affect me. You can help them. But if you freak out with them or get frustrated because you have to perfectly time a correction because that's your only shot, no, let them ride that wave, but you hold that space. Right? And you provide that space, and then everybody's going to feel safe.
And I often mention this typically kind of around this time in this conversation, where I don't want people to get the idea that it's just sunshine and rainbows, because it's not. Like you can still be firm and anchored. You can still be soft and anchored.
Absolutely.
But it's really, I think the most important part is, number one, what we are possessing while we're doing it, which isn't the easiest thing, obviously. That takes time to develop. But I think the most important element is where we end. And that, depending on, and for most people, is if they're dealing with a dog that is more advanced, which most likely it is, compared to their skill level and emotional capacity and ability to feel, is ending on a good note, a peaceful note, a harmonious note, in feeling, not just the visual.
Right.
But it isn't just sunshine and rainbows, because when you get a dog that wants to eat you, that is, you have to defend yourself. There's blocking, there's so on and so forth, or a kid that's really angry or volatile. You are still going to use some level of protection and just be realistic about it. But that being said, we're always going to end on a good note, a peaceful note.
Yes.
And not just visually. It's a feeling.
Yes.
So, and that can take various amounts of time, hours, minutes. That I always like to throw that in there, because people can get very mood makey, or if obedience trainers are listening to this, they're like, these people are talking out of their ass, because that's just not realistic with the dogs that I deal with. And it's like, no. We have all worked with those kinds of dogs.
We do work with them. We just worked with like a lot of those
We
dogs.
just went into Dallas Animal Services for 12 hours over 2 days, and that's the second largest shelter in the United States. So we know what that feels like, but what we're trying to express is this completely, it's this unknown, unseen thing and feeling, and that's what we're trying to highlight. And that's what if you get that feeling like, oh god, these people are unrealistic, it's not unrealistic, but it feels, and if intellectually it feels unrealistic, because you do not see it very often in this world today. What you see is distraction. What you see is instant fulfillment of desire and all of this stuff. But then look at us as a species.
I'm sure that you're
doing great.
We're doing fine. Everything's great.
Totally.
But I'm sure that your awareness of children is probably higher than ours, because we don't interact with children as much. And that's probably pretty similar to how we're raising our humans too, is distraction or apathy or fear or lack of connection or time, or
and a lot of that, how we raise our children, how we interact with dogs, is because we don't want to feel. So I have to make that feeling in the other person, the child, the dog, go away, because I don't know how to feel that, right? And so when you were talking about the waves, if we learn, and that takes openness, that takes time, that takes patience, and a lot of messing up. If we learn to ride those waves, if we learn to let those feelings come up and then let them go through instead of shutting them down, because if we just shut them down in a dog, in a child, in another human being, it's not going anywhere. It's still there. It's just suppressed, and it will come out in,
some
disease
other way,
or a big outburst at some point, right? But if we can learn how to just let it all come up, anger, frustration, fear, it doesn't matter. All what we call negative emotions, it's just an emotion. That's really what it is. It's a
just
feeling,
energy.
Right? It is what it is, right? So let it come up and let it go through, so it leaves. So we don't have to hold on to it, but we just want to shut it down. And
Because
that's
it doesn't feel good.
Exactly. But that's where
Scary.
the distraction comes in. That's where the bribe comes in. That's where the punishment comes in. So I'm just going to make it go away instead of go feel that. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not mad at you that you feel this way right now. Go feel it so it can leave your body and your system, so that you can go back to a little bit higher frequency that brings you more peace.
Or I am angry and frustrated. And that's on me.
Exactly.
And I'm just going through my process. But initially, there's the finger pointing, but that's that's the beauty of looking at it as just like, oh, that's where you're on your path, and that's okay too.
That's great.
Yeah.
One thing I really admire about you is you remind me of my mom, who's actually here. She's upstairs with us. But the fact that you left the industry, because I know my mom, she divorced my dad, and that was a big decision that she had to make. But then on top of a hard decision, scary decision, but she made it. And then not only that, then she was a single mom. And at that time, my sister and I went to public school, and it was really hard. Like, I was getting bullied and so on and so forth. And I was just going through a hard time. And so the next hard decision she had to make was she quit her job. She went on food stamps. And we lived in the basement of like a friend's house for a while. And so it's not...
Why did she do that, though?
For us.
Exactly. That's important.
For us. To be there for us when we came home from school so that she could just support us. And then homeschool us eventually. But the fact that you left the industry because you have 2 kids. And the amount of pressure that society puts on us, mortgages, taxes, all of that stuff. And so I'm sure you felt some pressure financially to not make that scary decision, fearful decision, but you did. And that shows a lot of courage on your part as a woman. But that is such a good leading by example thing for your children. But so many people don't make that decision because they're thinking about retirement. They're thinking about this. They're thinking about that. And it just blocks them from leaning into and feeling those things that are very scary, but it's all bottled up inside. And then, but what are you leading with for your children?
Exactly.
You're teaching them to just bottle that up inside.
Deal with it.
Deal with it. Push it down, and then there's just the cycle just continues. But you broke from it, and that's such a beautiful thing as a woman, in particular a mom, because you are the most powerful things on the planet. You are the ones who birth us, grow us. You have more connection to us than a man because of that, vibrationally, chemistry wise, DNA wise, energetically wise. And so when you're able to sit in those feelings, allow those feelings to come up and work your way up this frequency chart.
Well, and you're choosing, it's a choice.
Exactly.
You're choosing where you want, if we're thinking about the chart, what frequency you want to be sharing with your family and that you want to be living in.
Yes.
But you got to go through some hard feelings in order to get to that peace.
And that's usually how it goes.
And that's just life. And so,
Absolutely.
but it's such an admirable thing that you did in terms of just that, because some people might think about it like, oh, she just left the dog industry, what a big deal. But that's think about the fallout of that, the fear of making that decision from a resource position. Where am my kids going to be able to continue to go to this school that I really want them to go to, and can I still afford this kind of health care? So it's just life is not set up to move through. Well, it is set up to move through to a higher frequency, but man, it's really set up like as soon as you make that decision, you're going to start feeling lots of challenging feelings and vibrations. So it's, in one sense, life is set up to not make those decisions, but in another sense, it's really set up to elevate very quickly. Because as soon as you take that step, you are challenged. You're challenged before you make it, and then you're challenged immediately when you make it.
How did that feel for you?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging that. And it did take me a couple of years to get to that point, right? Because it was scary. I knew it, right? But I didn't want to face it because of consequences and whatnot. And I will say I'm incredibly fortunate that I have somebody like Art who is so supportive of everything that I've ever wanted to do, and that helps tremendously. Because 9 years ago I said I want to do yoga teacher training. It costs money, obviously, and not just $100. So go for it. I want you to be happy, and I think that it will help you on your path, right? So whatever it is that I've brought to the table, he's always been supportive of it, and that helps.
That's
so much.
So critical.
So much. And to the other point, was it hard? Absolutely. Did it bring up a lot of fear? Yes. Did it bring up even feelings of guilt and shame in the sense of like, oh, now I'm quitting? I had a lot of baggage of I'm failing in life, in like somewhere it was living in here, I'm a failure. So that all came up, right? And especially once I quit, so December 31st, and I quit, and then it really wanted to come out. It really was screaming at me, well, now you're a failure. And I sat with it. And I sat with it for a while, until it then left the building for the first time in my life.
Wow.
And now I don't feel like I'm failing anymore. And that's such a beautiful thing. And I don't know if I would have ever gotten to that point of feeling that had I not taken the step of, this is super scary, but I'm leaving this industry right now because it feels like I need to do that. And then it almost, the first couple of weeks after felt worse to a certain extent, right? I knew, oh, this is great, and I was excited about doing my writing and everything, right? But it brought up all this stuff. And luckily, I was able to sit with it, and it left.
So beautiful.
I found so much peace after making that decision, so. Yeah,
it's how it's those things in life, those feelings of I'm a failure, I have shame around doing this, or I have guilt around doing this, and selfish, and those are going to happen, and they're going to happen with the dogs and the kids and with us. It's just, this is like the part where we're trying not to mood make this situation.
Yeah, it's not easy.
It is not easy. No. It is not easy to choose something like that. It is not easy to always sit in really uncomfortable feelings. Really, it's so much easier to just turn the TV on, or to smoke weed or whatever, to have that go away, because it can be so uncomfortable.
Most people don't meditate because what are you sitting in? All the things that you distract yourself from. So it's extremely challenging. But, and to your point, like, we started talking about the Jentle Method and how it's a meditation. And like, it's not necessary. It is for everyone.
Yes.
The Jentle Method is for everyone, but maybe not just at all times.
Right.
Because you have to be ready to feel those things. Yes. And if you're not, then obedience is probably better for you. Or balance training where you're using toys and a shock collar is better for you, because feeling is no joke.
Right.
It's no joke. And if you have a dog that has lots of feelings,
a lot of the time,
buckle up. Because they're going to make you feel things.
Exactly.
And if you don't know how to manage those, then that's really challenging.
Yeah, that gets into like endurance and will to help, and patience, and just
not in an intellectual form. It's in a practice form too. Right. Because
it's like, oh, you need me again. Here we go. I will be here for you.
Right.
Oh, you need me again. Okay, I'm here. I'm here at the same capacity.
Because what I've noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, is that so many trainers talk about these things that we're talking about, but it's this intellectual thing, not this experiential thing. To put it into practice is a completely different thing.
Totally.
It's so hard.
I think that something that's coming up for me with this conversation is something that we do, that you were mentioning, we do with the dogs. We look for is small steps of growth and improvement in how they feel. Okay, you're having this huge feeling. Can we bring it to a place, or I'm going to be here and we're going to bring it to a place eventually where it feels a little better. A little better.
Just one step.
One little tiny nugget. And that's what we're doing with ourselves. Is like, oh, I'm feeling a lot of anger right now.
Yeah.
Can it feel a little bit better? And then taking that as growth. I think that's the work that we're doing with ourselves, and then that's the work that we're doing with them as well.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing time.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
We think you're delightful.
Lovely. I think that about you guys.
And thank you all for listening. One thing we didn't mention that we want to mention, it is our preference, Cole and myself, that when people listen to this podcast, that they don't speed it up.
Or if you are speeding it up, maybe that's an opportunity to sit in something uncomfortable.
Yeah, and not speed it up.
Not speed it up.
It's a little thing, but I know we talk slow and sometimes our podcasts are long, but...
And there are pauses between our words and...
Just a little suggestion. It's our preference.
Do we have a like or a dislike? No.
It's a preference that people don't fast 1.5 speed, 2.5 speed. Well, I don't even know what those options are.
They can get pretty crazy.
Yeah, But anyways, it's our preference that when people listen to this podcast, that they don't speed it up.
Or just use it as an opportunity for self-reflection. People can do whatever they want. You do whatever you want.
Yeah. But if you're at 2.5 times speed, maybe do 1.5 times speed. Just slow it down a little bit.
I think it would go to like
one
2.
Step at a time.
Yeah, a little bit. And maybe like 5 minutes of the podcast. Do it at the normal speed.
There you go. It's an invitation, right?
It's an invitation, exactly.
Yeah. But thank you for being here with us, sharing time. And we look forward to sharing time with you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you.